Hello, world. I am so excited for today's One Word Wednesday. Now, Mike Sipple Jr. is an icon. He's an awesome guy, and he's also a good friend of mine. Mike, say hello to the world.
Hello, world. Nick, thank you so much for having me on these. I watch these every week, so it is such an honor to be a part of this today.
Oh, we're honored to have you. And let me tell you, I see that Talent Magnet Institute above you, and I got a word for you today. When you hear the word cooperation, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And my whole life, I feel like it's been a part of this, right? That identifying people who bring amazing gifts and different gifts than me, and being able to align ourselves with those individuals to bring the best to the world, right? Whether we're on a team or in a club where we're looking around and we all bring our different skills and abilities, how do we cooperate with others? How do we maximize others' best and bring our best to the table? How do we respect those differences, those gifts that I don't have, or those experiences that I don't have that you have or anyone in the room has, and how do we bring those to the same team, right? And that's a lot about what this is all about, bringing amazingly gifted and talented people that God's brought in our paths together to achieve excellence for those that we're serving, right? The other thing I think.
Hold on, I gotta jump in real quick, right? When I think of cooperation, I think of you operating and me operating, and we have the same goal, and we're doing it together. Now, I hear you tell me like a lot of these things, but I want to know, how do you do it? Like, how do you see somebody else operating awesome and you operating awesome, and not see them as competition, but see them as an ability to cohabitate? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one, I think having kind of setting our ego aside and saying, you know what, maybe there are things that I do really well, but I'm watching this other person do things incredibly well. What if we brought those together, right? And I'm looking at, how do you change the world? Not how do I influence my sphere, but how do I change the world and what I do? And in order to lead boldly and to do those types of high impact things that shift the way people think and operate, yeah, we can't do it on our own, right? So that's the world that I live in, of cooperation and bringing people together. The other piece is have the conversation. Say, hey, I respect what you're doing. I love watching what you're up to, and I want to learn from you. Again, I think of my son and playing middle school sports, right? There are people who do things better than him, but he brings his own abilities to the table, right? So being able to say, hey, I'm going to pass the ball to you when we're in this situation, because this is where you thrive. And when you need this to happen, you send the ball to me, and I'll do it because that's where I thrive, right?
So I gotta ask you, and not to cut you again, I know I keep cutting, I don't mean to do that, but is there a difference between cooperation and teamwork, or are they the same thing?
I think in order to have great teamwork, you need to be awesome at cooperation. You need to be able to know when to set yours down and help someone else stand up, right? We need to be able to see the strengths of each other and where those strengths come together. So teamwork is not, me bringing 50% and you bringing 50%. Teamwork is me bringing my 100% and you bringing your 100%, right?
Yeah.
And it's an attitude. I think this is an attitude, not just an action. We've got to think about how we partner well, how we bring our best together to bring the best to the world around us. It's my perspective.
I got to tell you, I have been horrible at times at being a good teammate, and also being horrible at cooperation. Like, I've been in situations where I've been just trying to operate, and if you are going to roll with me, I need you to either be above me or below me, but to work with me is something that takes a level of trust, right? Yeah. And I know I did this, playing college football. I wasn't the best teammate. I just wanted the ball, or I wanted to get the big block or the big hit, and I would sometimes miss my assignment. Even as an entrepreneur, I want to do the things that are fun sometimes, and operating with people who aren't fun is not fun, right? So, like, I want to know, where have you been challenged in cooperation? Like, where have you dropped, literally a few times I dropped the ball. So where
Yeah.
have you dropped the ball in cooperation?
Yeah, I think part of it is listening, right? That when we aren't listening, when we're in the mode of like, I'm the only one who has all the answers and we don't listen, typically we stub our toe or we drop the ball, right? So I think being able to listen and being able to say, you know what, that is actually different than my perspective, but if I really think about it, that's a great way to approach this, right? So I think that active listening, that innate ability to hear, even when I think I'm, if you think and when we think and when I think it's the only way, it's usually when I'm setting myself up for failure, right? And that learning ability, that caring, I really want to inspire people to achieve excellence. And we don't achieve excellence without others' viewpoints and perspectives feeding in to what we're doing. I mean, you can look at it from any Olympic athlete. They have coaches and advisors and, doctors and nutritionalists all around them to give them inputs to do better, right?
Yeah.
So it shows in what we watch. People don't get to the top. People don't achieve greatness and make significant impact by doing it as a solo sport.
That's so. Oh, now I gotta ask you this question. So, in a world of right now, diversity and inclusion is really popular. Also, the mental health stuff is really popular, and people not being able to ask for help has been crazy. I mean, people being in their homes with COVID-19, like all that stuff going on. Then all the stuff we've been seeing, the videos of people being shot by police, the disparity issues that we've seen in our cities, the fear that certain people may have with police officers and submitting and all of these kind of things. How do we cooperate? Like, how do we, not only as businessmen and as men, period, but like as leaders and influencers, how do we work together to make this a better world when you see all of these horrible things going on?
Yeah. So big part of all of that, Nick, in my perspective, is isolation, right? You can take it on as a solo sport and be isolated, but it doesn't help anyone to be isolated, right? So right when you think there's no one I can go to, there are people like you, like myself, like others who say, hey, let us know, reach out. I think having the conversations with everything that's going on, right? And not to surround yourself with people who think just like you, but hearing from one perspective, listening from the other perspective, hearing and asking questions. You may even say, hey, you may not have my beliefs, but I want to hear from your perspective, why that's taking place, why that. And if we could start actively listening and caring for the words that come out of others' mouths and listen and respond to those and bring goodness in relationship, goodness in change, and take action on those changes, it helps with all of this. I talk a lot on mental health. I talk, our team does a lot in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And at the end of the day, people do not listen to one another well, right? We've got to learn how to hear, how to ask questions that are not leading, and also listen to others' perspectives.
I got to tell
And
you,
be willing to take bold action in that too. Like, don't sit still. If
right?
something's stirring you up, take action.
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see in this world.
I know for me, one of the things that has kept me from being able to cooperate in this certain sense was the inability to trust again. When I was playing sports, the one thing my coaches would always tell me, I need to have a short-term memory, right? I need to be able to release the pain. I need to be able to let go of some things and to put myself in position to trust again. But when I trusted, I got hurt.
Yeah.
And so I had to find, and I'm still finding a way to cooperate. I mean, it's so easy to walk into a place and use my bias and think that I know you and how you're going to interact. And then for me to actually behave in an opposite way because I'm telling myself who you are and I'm not asking Mike, how does he cooperate? And so so for me, it's been this stripping away process where I'm learning how to trust again. Have you ever had to go through that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when we get hurt and things don't feel good and things were hurtful, right?
Mm.
So many times those hurts, fortunately, I believe, are unintended, right? But then when it is intended, and they are things that we're seeing right now on TV played back to us, and these experiences of what's going on right now, it's not new, right?
No, not at all. No.
They say
Yeah.
this is what has gone on, and
Hmm.
we're seeing it in public form, right? So, and those are hurtful people, and hurting people hurt people. And we have to recognize that there are really good people too. And how can we influence to stop the behaviors that in some days feel like they're being approved, right?
Mm,
And it's
right,
not
right,
okay. So to your point, those things that hurt us, that are a thorn, that feel uncomfortable, let them feel uncomfortable. But
right.
take note, journal, share it with someone, and start working through it. Don't try to tackle it on your own.
Mm. And it's interesting because even the word tackle, right? So when I was playing ball, tackle means to grab it and take it to the ground. You know what I'm saying? But when you're saying not trying to do it on your own, that's another part of trust.
Yeah.
Especially with the mental health issue. When in COVID-19, people being scared to be around each other, right? And so you're at home, and whatever's going on at home, whatever you're watching on TV, whatever's on your media, like that's what's feeding your mind, and you're around that all the time, to the point where you go to the grocery store and you're scared to be close to another person,
Right.
because this fear is such a prevailing thing. And so if I could say anything to the listeners, and well, actually, I'm gonna say something, and then Mike, I'm gonna hand you the mic, and then we're gonna close. If I could say anything to the listeners that are out there, cooperation is essential for survival. And we may have been taught that isolation, we may have been taught that separation is essential. That's not true. Now, there's going to be times that we're going to need to separate and descend, if you will. But like, when we want to thrive and we want to literally survive, we need to be able to work together. And to do that, we have to find a way to cooperate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And you go so far to say, hey, when you're in that grocery store and you feel uncomfortable, if you have a mask on and I have a mask on, we're cooperating to keep each other healthy, right?
Yeah.
So if we're in the world and I don't have a mask on and you do, and I'm walking around talking to you, think about how unhelpful that is to you who's trying to take care of yourself, right? If we're both taking care of ourselves, that's helping one another be safe, now all of a sudden we can come back out and we can have the conversations. So think of cooperation is us thinking about where I can bring my best and where you can bring your best, and together how we can be better, right? So think of the glass, I always use the commentary, the glass floweth over, right? So if I'm, empty or full, it's, hey, I want to bring people together so the glass is overflowing with joy and skills and
Yes.
talents. And that's what we need to try to bring into this world. And you can't cooperate and bring out your best if you're isolated.
Right.
So don't live in that isolation, and begin partnering with others who can bring their best and have bold conversations to cooperate most effectively.
Yes. Hey, world, this is Nick Jackson, and I'm here with Mike Sipple Jr. I want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to us, and listen to us talk about cooperation and how it's essential. Mike, you have 5 seconds. What do you want to say to the people before we go?
Hey, you are a difference maker, and act like it each and every day. Nick, thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for watching this episode.
I love that. Great closing. Cooperate, people. Thank you.